Evelyn, to have you joining us. Good morning to you. We're talking one that has been an incredible story throughout this crisis and for years now in terms of the growth that this company's been able to show. And of course, we're talking Lululemon, and really positioned well for multiple reasons, Evelyn. The product mix is right on trend in terms of this move towards more casual, more athletic wear, athleisure, and direct-to-consumer model. This is a company that's executed on e-commerce and direct-to-consumer, better than really anybody for quite some time.
Right, Alex, and also I'm so happy to be here with the two of you. It's so good to see you, even though we're all at our respective homes right now, of course. But in fact, Evan just said that stocks don't stay up, but you know what? I'd say take a look at that Lululemon chart. And, year to date, that stock has gone pretty much straight up. Year to date, shares are up about 40%, but year over year, they're up. They've off that big dip that the rest of the market also saw at the end of March. But Alex, you're right about how Lulu has really been expanding as far as what they offer. They are expanding more into their international market, well as more menswear, trying to compete more with the likes of companies like Nike. But I think it's a really interesting story right now because, athleisure, people aren't at home wearing business casual. They're at home wearing sweatpants and their Lululemon yoga pants. This first tweet that I saw on social media that says, "My local Lulu is still closed." But sorry, this first tweet is from Deb Neds, and she says, "Went to Lulu today to buy 4 pairs of Align leggings. Still all stores around them open. Sorry, Lulu, Athleta was opened." So I love this tweet because in my local Southport neighborhood here in Chicago, that's the same story. The Athleta, which is owned by Gap stores, ticker symbol GPS, is still open, but the Lululemon stores are closed. I do have another tweet, though, that speaks to Lululemon's currently pretty high stock price. And this tweet is from Vexer Trades that says, "Speaking of Lulu, I seriously want to know who on planet Earth is buying this at $320 a share." Kevin, I have a question for you. I mean, Lulu hasn't missed earnings estimates in about 14 quarters, and the company is definitely on a roll. But we saw Gap stores report earnings last week, and even though Athleta's online sales were up, they still demolished. So is even a chance for Lululemon today when they report earnings, to report positive numbers? And even if they don't, will the market care? It seems like a lot of traders look at Lulu kind of like a cult stock, almost like Tesla.
You're right, Evelyn. That's exactly the way they look at Lululemon. But that doesn't mean that good news can't still mean Lululemon could go down. I mean, it's down 2% today pre-earnings just because the overall market sold off. And they weren't, sheltered from the market sell-off in mid-March. I mean, the stock went from around the $260 level down to the $128 level. So Lululemon, though, represents the highest in quality in terms of athletic wear, they're not sheltered from an overall market sell-off. And this is a stock, as you can see by the chart, has run straight up, Evelyn. And so is it susceptible to a down day or an earnings that don't meet up these unbelievable expectations? Absolutely it is, Evelyn.
Yeah, and guys,
It'll definitely be interesting.
Evelyn, really, really great points. When I look at this, though, Evelyn, I think the ultimate story as I sum things up here and we say goodbye is, hey, Lululemon hasn't opened their stores, but do they have to? They have such a strong brand position and they have such a strong e-commerce presence that, maybe they are able to be a little bit more conservative with their reopening plans for some of their brick and mortar presence. But hey, Evelyn, we got to leave it there. We got to run. We really appreciate you joining us. And as we say goodbye to Evelyn, we're going to welcome in Landon Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com. And Landon, really, really happy to talk to you and get your take on Lululemon, because this is a company that we've talked about a lot. It's hard to bet against. I know you're a fan of it. I'm a fan of Lululemon, at least on the product. But Evelyn brings up some good points about the stock price. And also, even today, when I've seen the market ease and sink all day long, Lululemon was bought on the open, and it's continued to kind of rally off of its lows that it made right at the market open.
Right. Yeah. It's it's killing it right now. It's just off of all-time highs. That COVID was just kind of a blip, and now it's ran way past that, doing extremely well. And our data is very strong on Lululemon. Even through the quarantine, we're seeing a lot of people talk about buying online, which I know is a huge push for them. It was going into the COVID crisis. I think that their digital sales were up about 40% year over year, making up about a third of their revenue before they shut down stores and tried to refocus on getting people online. But you can see we've got purchase intent doing extremely well, not quite all-time highs, but really strong even throughout this. We've got purchase intent up about 9% year over year. So people are still very strong about supporting this company and their product. It does have a bit of a cult following, I think, like Evelyn mentioned. And I know that expectations are high just based on the stock price. But when you look at the quarterly numbers, if you look at how much people are talking about purchase intent, quarter over quarter, year over year, and you compare that to fiscal quarters estimates, our numbers suggest that they're likely to beat on this earnings release today after the market. I know the share price is tough, up around 320, so that's what gives me pause. But long term, I love this company.
That's right, Landon. There's nothing more special than three dudes talking about Lululemon. I think this is really our finest hour here on the network. But what it is really the unbelievable retail story that Lululemon is, and their ability to mark themselves and mark their territory as the leader in quality and high price. Their price points are the highest in the retail sector for athletic wear, but they promote that. And they say we're the highest quality, and their brand is as strong as any brand out there. You've got growth, as high, pretty much as high as it's ever been in terms of consumer purchase intent. But Landon, what was the overall feeling during the coronavirus? Because their direct-to-consumer business is doing nothing but exploding. So is that what people were talking about? Just still buying Lululemon online versus in the stores? What were you guys seeing in terms of what customers were doing during the shutdown to still get their Lululemons?
Yeah, it was a lot of people talking about buying online, and a lot of people expressing frustration that they couldn't go to the stores. We actually saw a little bit of a happiness dip, just a few points, I think, from the high 70s to the low 70s as far as percentage. But they're still beating Nike, which is around 65%. So Lulu's strong there. But people were a little bit frustrated with the fact that they couldn't go to the stores, but they're still buying online. I'm actually right now wearing a Lulu shirt that I bought during the shutdown. So I'm a big fan of the company, and a lot of people are as well. And so you can see here on the quarterly chart, we've got that 20 Q1, which is February 3rd to May 3rd, up a little bit quarter over quarter, up a little bit year over year. The current quarter, which is that far right bar that's a little bit shaded differently, up so far as pace goes. We're only about a month into that, but still very strong numbers coming in from not only the current quarter that they're reporting, but the quarter that's ongoing right now. So looking good for Lulu. But again, the hesitation comes off of that share price. Very, very high and up about 125% from the bottoms in March. That's tough. It's a tough place to be an investor. But as far as I'm concerned, the market maker move is, I think it's around 7% expected move. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I don't think that they usually move 7% on earnings. And so if you're in the position where you like this company long term, I kind of like the idea of maybe selling puts and taking advantage of that high premium right now.
Yeah, and I mean, Landon, when I look at kind of recent history and I think about Lululemon moves, I feel like traditionally our conversation has been, hey, everything's great, but this stock's ran so much, it's hard to bet on the stock, and then every single time it delivers. So, I think we all have PTSD if you've tried to bet against it, and so that's always going to be short on your mind. But I want to get your thoughts on something that I've been thinking about when I think about Lululemon and I think about the retail space. really what this pandemic and the shutdowns of these storefronts and economies across the world, and particularly in the U.S., has done is it's exposed the weak companies, and it's almost just kind of inflated the strong ones in a way. As it let these trends play out. It let a lot of what was going to happen over the next few years happen in a matter of weeks in terms of where business was going and what companies were best set up to survive something like this. And for many reasons, Lulu's gotten to this point. But you look at how Lulu's became the powerhouse retail apparel company that it's become, and it's really one that I think there'll be textbooks and history books will write about, because they took such a grassroots approach, Lane, and it was such outside the box in terms of how they marketed their products. The outreach to local yoga studios and stuff, and partnering with those companies and the instructors, and this bottom up approach of getting out there and always kind of being in that community, as opposed to something like what Nike does and targets these high profile athletes and partners there, kind of a top down approach. It's really been interesting, and the way that they've been able to scale and still hold this perception of quality, and then deliver on the happiness front where you perceive a higher quality and then you're still happy with the product that you get, it has been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that their approach it's a great contrast, like you're saying. Their approach to getting influencers or getting marketing from the very low level sort of yoga instructors is very grassroots compared to a Nike approach. And you're right, they're doing a very good job of it. They're finding lots and lots of micro influencers who have, they teach, 5 or 10 classes a week with 20 or 30 people in those classes. And if they're wearing Lulu and they're doing all the moves that everybody wished they could do, they're going to follow that. Lulu also did a great job of picking up on the yoga wave. Yoga has been a big move over the last 10 years or so. And so they're in the right place at the right time, capitalized on that. And just like you said, yes, anybody can look like a genius when everything's going really well. But when the times get tough, the really smart companies are the ones that are good at executing, sort of shake out. So as that chart showed, Under Armour really falling behind, doing poorly. And Lulu's just been in a much better position. Part of that, I think, is also because that they have a lot of direct to consumer, or they own the store. So I think like 90% of their sales come in the form of either we own the store or we're sending it direct to the consumer, whereas Nike's going wholesale and there's a middleman in that. And so their margins are, I think, about 10 points higher than Nike's, 45 versus 55. So Lulu's in a position to, like you said, get that grassroots movement and then also keep a larger percentage of the sale. So good strategy all around by Lulu.
Landon, as we wrap this up, you kind of already talked about, how you'd approach trading this and that you like this company long term. Is part of that reason you like this company long term because the trends you follow favor a company like Lulu? This trends away from traditional professional wear, especially for men, to more casual business wear, and that Lulu's kind of heart and front and center of that, where the trend's going?
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a personal choice, but also I look at the purchase intent chart, and it is just up and to the right, and they've just executed extremely well. Everything that we see on them is coming in positive. It's not a ridiculous trajectory like a hockey stick growth. It's just nice and trending up and to the right, higher highs, higher lows, a little bit of a shakeup around COVID, but doing extremely well. So I like companies that have that kind of growth. The stock chart, on the other hand, is a little bit scary. It's getting a little accelerated, and usually you see some pullbacks. But for me, with a great company, a pullback is expected, and it's a buying opportunity. And anytime you have a situation where you're going into a company that earnings where they don't really move that much, and you've got a 7% market maker move, I think that's a bit rich. And if you're a long-term investor, you might want to take advantage of that premium. But yeah, long-term, I love this company.